Welcome to another edition of Homestead Huddle at the Survival Homestead Teaching Farm. Our previous video discussed basically why you should wait a year before doing any major renovations on a new property or even an existing property that you might have, and the benefits of doing so. Today's video we're going to discuss what I encourage most people to do after that year is up. One of the first things, and that is establish a producing garden, so to speak, that will produce with minimum effort for year after year after year. And what I'm talking about mainly is your fruit trees, your berry bushes, your perennial items that will continue to come back and provide you with a stable crop that could benefit you 15, 20, 30 years from now. And you don't have to really upkeep it that much. You know, one of the things that it's going to cost you is basically the purchase of trees. And I'll give you an example. Most of our trees, and we'll go through several of them and show you, we planted last year. One of the things that we planted were grapes. We planted 4 grapevines. And I looked today and saw some grapevines, and they're selling for roughly 14 bucks. And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, that's expensive. But when I factor in that one grapevine can produce me grapes for the next 30 years potentially, if done right, and then look at the grocery store at how much grapes are costing now, I would make my monies back within that first or second year once it starts producing grapes. So long-term benefits outweigh any initial cost. And one reason why I encourage you to actually start now is because a lot of these trees might take several years to get established. Now, another thing you got to consider is what you want to grow. For us, we love all kinds of fruits and berries, so we kind of went crazy on that. We also looked into basically certain varieties of trees that are potentially cold hardy that would grow in our zone. One example of that would be we got cold hardy pomegranate trees that I actually can plant in the ground and have. So find out what you enjoy eating. You know, do you like grapes? Do you like apples? You know, the cost of apples are going up sky high, especially if they're growing organically. You know, how many trees do you, and how much space do you have for those trees? One thing to keep in mind is certain trees require another tree for pollination before they'll actually bear fruit. So you want to research what type of tree and what type of fruit that you might be wanting, or bush or berry, and make sure that it's either self-fertile or you've got a second one that can help pollinate it, and that way you'll have fruit. Now, again, even if it's like for us, we love apples. You can do so many things with apples. Apple cider vinegar, applesauce, apple cider, hard apple cider, apple pies, you name it. There's a lot of things that you can do with apples. We use every part of the apple. So we have multiple apple trees. And that's not a bad thing, because the more you have, the actual better yield of fruit that you'll get from those trees or bushes. So let me take you through some of our plants that we put in the ground last year, and you can see where they're at just 1 year later. Now, this is one example that we just installed this year. This is going to be our strawberry patch. You know, it's very basic, easy to do. Didn't cement the blocks together. They're freestanding. So we might get a few strawberries this year, but if we don't, that's fine. It'll be available next year, and that's where our big yield will come from. This is one of our 3-in-1 plum trees that we planted last year. Now, this is the only plum that's growing on it. However, next year we expect a lot better harvest. This is still just 1 year, and it has grown. So you can see within 1 year of growth how much is grown. This is our kiwi and grapevine trellis system that we built last year. Now, each of these plants were literally just basic plants last year. We don't have any kiwis this year, but you can see how both of our kiwi plants have grown up. However, our 4 grapevines that we planted last year, let me show you a closer look at some of the grapes that are already forming. This is one of the bunches of grapes. They're just forming. And like I said, this is just a year planted. So it's last year we didn't get any. This year we're actually getting bundles. A little bundle on that plant. Now this one, again, this is just a year old grapevine. We got 1, 2, 3. Back there it's 4 little bundles on this one alone. So think about how many grapes will come from that and how expensive grapes are. And think about that. This one vine producing up to 30 years of grapes. You know, your money is well spent just planting a couple grapevines. This is one of our fig trees that we planted last year. We actually thought that we lost it. However, it's coming back slowly after the winter. But I don't expect to have any figs this year, but it's just establishing itself after one cold winter. This is our second fig tree that we planted. It's doing a little bit better. It made it through the winter a little bit better than the other one, but again, it will grow and continue to grow. So it's going to probably take a couple years before it actually ever produces fruit. And that's fine. That's why I encourage you to plant now, so that, or a year after you get your land, so that you can get that base started, so you don't have to wait 5, sometimes 10 years for some fruit tree to actually start producing. Now, surprisingly, this is our goji plant. We actually got a few goji berries last year, the first year that we planted it. So we were very surprised by that and pleased, and we're hoping that this year we'll get a lot more. Now this is our honeyberry bush. This is one I bought and I didn't think ahead or plan ahead. This one requires another berry bush or another honeyberry bush to help pollination before it will bear fruit. So we're going to actually have to propagate this before we can get fruit. Now this is our mulberry bush. I was actually very pleased to get this. I've actually bought 2 more this year to actually plant. It's doing very well, but I still might not get mulberries for a couple years on it, and that's fine. It's just taking a year. This is a year worth of growth from a very small little sprout. This is our apple tree, one of our apple trees I should say, that I bought this year, and I got it for 20 bucks at a local grocery store. And as you can see, it's doing very well, and hopefully in a year or 2, maybe next year, we'll have some apples from this tree. This is one of 3 pink lemonade blueberry bushes that we have and we planted, and we spaced them out on this hill basically a couple feet apart, so that they'll help pollinate each other. And this is 1 year of growth. We got them in, I think, a 6-inch pot when I got them, so they're doing very well. and hopefully in a couple years we'll have some pink lemonade blueberries. These are raspberry bushes, and these will hopefully grow in a couple years, and we'll have lots of raspberries. Now, this is an almond tree that I got last year, and it's quite amazing that it actually grew, because I ordered it from Home Depot, believe it or not, and it came with, I think, a month late from shipping in a truck, and I thought it was absolutely dead. But planted it, as you can see, over the winter it survived. It is actually doing quite well, so maybe in a few years we'll actually have almonds. Now, this is our 1-year-old, or I guess from where we planted it, peach tree. If you notice, there's actually quite a few peaches on this tree after just 1 year of planting. We got this tree, it's a 2-in-1 surprise tree from fastgrowingtrees.com. We've made several purchases from them, and we've been pleased every time. But we've gotten some from our local nursery and stuff as well, and we're pleased with that too. But as you can see, within 1 year of this, we have quite a few peaches already on this tree, and I'm hoping over the years it will just continue to get better and better. Now, this is our cold hardy pomegranate. We actually got 2 of them this year, and we have planted them. When we first got it about a month ago, it was about right there, about that tall. So this is all new growth right through there. So we're hopeful that these pomegranate trees, and again, they're cold hardy, so they should make it in our zone, hopefully. But we'll keep you updated over their first winter. But as you can see, they're doing well, and hopefully in a few years we'll have some pomegranates. Now, this is a Gala apple tree that I bought at our local nursery this year in March, and we planted it. So far it's doing okay. But if you notice, the very first year, here is 1 apple. So we have gotten 1 apple off this tree, and I just planted it in March. So hopefully in next year, or the several years after, we'll get an actual great yield off this tree. So this is a 4-in-1 apple tree that we got last year at from fastgrowingtrees.com. It's got 4 different varieties on it: Granny Smith, Fuji, and I don't know the other 2 right off my mind. But we planted it last year. It's about 3 feet tall. If you can tell, it is, I'd say, 8 feet tall now. So it has grown quite a bit within a year. Now, it is not our main apple producer yet. This one actually has not produced any apples this year, but hopefully next year. If you span over, this is our old apple tree that has been here for many, many years. I honestly don't remember how long it's been here, but it has loaded with apples already this year. This is our pear tree that has been here for quite a few years. Again, if you'll notice that on just this one little branch right there, there is 7 actual pears just right together. We also planted another, I think, a 5-in-1 pear tree that is about 20 yards away from it. So that, I believe, has actually helped this one produce a lot more fruit that's going to be coming this year. So we expect to get record yield off this one pear tree. From this pear tree and from the apple tree, you can make either apple cider or vinegar from either pear or apples. But we also use it as a feed substitute and a treat for our animals. I mean, there's a lot that you can do with different berries, different trees, different fruits, that, you know, you gotta keep an open mind and actually have some creativity on the things that you can use it for. But having your own little food forest, so to speak, of berries and trees that will continually produce year after year with minimal effort, the past several years we've done nothing but actually prune the trees, you know. And even then, these were actually neglected. The two big trees were neglected for many, many years without even pruning. And they still produced quite a bit of apples and pears. So very minimal effort, but high yield. It is a great way to go starting a homestead. And I encourage everyone after the year is up, basically from observing the land and figuring out what will grow best where, or what animals need what space and so forth, that you plant. Get your trees started, because the sooner you get them started, the sooner they'll start bearing fruit, and that's better for you, better for everyone, your animals. So thank you for watching this video.
Please continue to help us help you by liking, sharing, and subscribing.